The Gustav-Adolf-Werk is a society under the roof of the Evangelical Church in Germany which has for its object the aid of feeble sister churches and congregations. It is responsible for the taking care of the diaspora work of the EKD, in cooperation with the EKD itself, its member churches and congregations. The organization started with a focus on the diaspora, but has separate branches internationally. In the meanwhile, the organization in Austria is still called the Gustav-Adolf-Verein, which was the original name in Germany as well. Further terms used for the GOR in the past include Gustavus-Adolphus Union, Gustav-Adolf-Stiftung and Evangelischer Verein der Gustav-Adolf-Stiftung. Origin of the name. The Battle of Lutzen was a decisive battle of the 30 Years' War. It was a Protestant victory, but cost the life of one of the most important leaders of the Protestant alliance, Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden, which caused the Protestant campaign to lose direction later. Near the spot where Gustavus Adolphus fell, a granite boulder was placed in position on the day after the battle. A canopy of cast iron was erected over this Swedish stone. In 1832, and close by, a chapel, built by Oscar Ekman, a citizen of Gothenburg, was dedicated on the 6th of November 1907. The fallen king is remembered every year in Sweden, on Gustavus Adolphus Day, the 6th of November, with serene celebrations and Gustavus Adolphus pastry. Founding of the GOR Foundation. The project of forming such a society was first broached in connection with the bicentennial celebration of the Battle of Lutzen on November 6, 1832. A proposal to collect funds for a larger monument to Gustavus Adolphus having been agreed to. The existing memorial, a simple stone at a crossing where the king had died, was rather popular with the locals, which didn't want to have it replaced by a more pompous statue. It was then suggested by Superintendent Grossman that the best memorial to the great champion of Protestantism would be the formation of a union for propagating his ideas. It quickly gained popularity. Grossman and others of the time saw Gustavus Adolphus as a symbol for religious freedom and self-determination. It was sort of helpful to set a new goal for the Gustav-Adolphus Memorial. Before the GAW's foundation, Grossman had dealt, at the start of the 1830s, with problems of the Protestant community in Plesna, then Fließen in Austria on the border to Saxony. The local congregation had been bullied by the Catholic administration and e.g. disallowed for the locals to join church services and schools of the neighboring Bad Brambach as before. The use of a foundation itself was not very successful in the start, as it didn't allow for very active membership. For some years the society was limited in its area and its operations being practically confined to Leipzig and Dresden. When Karl Zimmermann, a pastor and journalist from Darmstadt, used the Reformation Festival in 1841 to found an association in support of the diaspora via public appeal, he didn't mention the GOR at all. Zimmermann, court preacher at Darmstadt, achieved to mobilize a larger audience. Enlargement to the Gustav-Adolf Union. The two founders and the respective organizations found a way to merge both projects. In 1843 a general meeting was held at Frankfurt am Main, where no fewer than 29 branch associations belonging to all parts of Germany except Bavaria and Austria were represented. The want of a positive creed tended to make many of the stricter Protestant churchmen doubtful of the usefulness of the union, and the stricter Lutherans have always held aloof from it. At a general convention held in Berlin in September 1846, a keen internal dispute arose about the admission of the Königsberg delegate Julius Rupp. who in 1845 had been deprived for publicly repudiating the Athanasian Creed and became one of the founders of the Free Congregations, and at one time it seemed likely that the society would be completely broken up. On the other hand, GAW's comparable critical attitude in relation to Roman Catholicism was shared in a broad audience, expressed in the later culture Kampf and as well in the relationship with Austria and France. Amid the political revolutions of the year 1848, the whole movement fell into stagnation, but in 1849 another general convention, held at Breslau, showed that, although the society had lost both in membership and income in the meanwhile, it was still possessed of considerable vitality. For that date the Gustav-Adolf-Verein has been more definitely evangelical in its tone than formerly, and under the direction of Karl Zimmermann, it greatly increased both in numbers and in wealth. It had already then built over 2,000 churches and assisted with some £2 million over 5,000 different communities. Apart from its influence in maintaining Protestantism in hostile areas, there can be no doubt that the Union has had a great effect in helping the various Protestant churches of Germany to realize the array and value of the common interests. The GAW started early to involve women's associations and public lectures. The Protestant and Patent, the acknowledgement of Protestatants in Austria 1861 allowed to expand to Austria. The GAW membership of the Austrian Protestantism was comparable high. 20th century, under the leadership of Hans Gerber, the first lawyer and among the only non-presidents with a non-theologian background. The Gustav-Adolf-Werk was comparable close to the regime, and the Deutsche Christen. Gerhard Heinzelmann replaced him 1944. He was a more liberal member of the neo-humanist Spiritus Christ and, similar to Ernst Wagner, a founding member of the CDU, the German Christian Democrats. The first congregation of the GAW after World War II took place in Fulda. The East-West conflict led to a separation in Kassel 1963 and Leipzig. Working along the lines of Kassel got the money, Leipzig the tradition. The GAW tried to manage its cohesion despite the fact of the separation of Germany. However, with Johannes Hoffmann as first Eastern president, the political divide forced to set up two organizations starting from 1971. 1992 the GAW was the first major entity of the EKD that moved to the east back its former headquarter in Leipzig and integrated the organization. 1994, with the 400th anniversary of King Gustav, the Swedish royal family visited the GAW in Leipzig. The perception of lack of political correctness of the name resulted in some internal criticism. The organization uses GAW as its brand nowadays. The current approach is to gain interest for Protestant diaspora churches worldwide. The GAW as well interacts with immigrants from such regions as possible messengers in the home countries. Role within the German churches. The GAW had a strong role in unifying various differing Protestant views in a singular popular movement across the various confessions within German Protestantism. It constrains the cooperation and aid on the members of the Leuenberger Concordia and its affiliates worldwide. Current activities. Since 2011, the GAW started to involve partnerships with the Fellowship of Middle East Evangelical Churches, and has done so with the GEK in Egypt and Syria, but has as well ongoing talks with the Presbyterian Church on Cuba. In the other hand, it may stop the current cooperation with the Bulgarian Evangelical Alliance, as it contains various churches beyond the Leuenberg setup. With regard to the French Protestantic Federation, the GAW confines its cooperation on those members which are within the Leuenberger Concord. 2015 will include for the first time a project in Cuba, as the GOR envisages installing a community house in Havana. Various current projects serve Protestant Christians under oppression, as for the Evangelical Church of Egypt and Christianity in Syria. A major part of the budget includes educational tasks. 2015 the GOR installed its first female president and a second from Württembergisch Landeskirche, Gabrielle WULZ. WULZ intends to assure awareness about diaspora topics in different parts of the EKD. Presidents: Christian Gottlob Lebrecht Grossmann, 1843–1857. Ewald Hoffmann, 1857–1874. Gustav-Adolf-Werk, 1874–1899. Oscar Pank, 1900–1908. Bruno Hartung, 1908–1917. Franz Rentdorf, 1917–1934. Hans Gerber, 1934–1944. Gerhard Heinzelmann, 1944–1951. Ernst Wagner, 1951–58. Fritz Hermann Haus, 1959–1963. GOR. Hans Jung Bluth, 1964–1968. GOR. Hans Katz, 1968–1970. GOR. 1970–1974. GOR. Gunter Besch, 1975–1978. GOR. Hermann Ries, 1979–1988. GOR. Dietrich Gang, 1989–1992. GOR. GOR in Eastern Germany. Johannes Hoffmann, 1971–1977. GOR. Rolf Stubb, 1978–1985. GOR. Ebergard Winkler, 1987–1992. GOR. GOR after a unification. Karl Christoph Epting, 1992–2004. Wilhelm Hofmeier, 2004–2015.